BC just increased the tenant eviction notice period from 2 to 4 months. They also created a new portal that landlords are now required to use when giving notice, and more. So now these changes, they might look like a win for tenants on the surface, but they are almost certainly going to spell trouble for both landlords and tenants alike. This, in my opinion, is yet another example of our government's overreach, stripping away too many rights from our landlords, which will create a ripple effect that will likely disrupt the entire housing market. Now, whether you're a landlord or a tenant, you're definitely going to want to watch this video through until the end to see just how these new changes are bad news for everyone involved. But before we dive in, if you're new to this channel, my name is Glen Hopkins and I create videos all about Canadian real estate and my local market of Surrey and White Rock, BC. So if that is something you're interested in, please go ahead, subscribe to the channel now, and that way you won't miss out on any of my upcoming videos. And also, if you would like my help with either buying or selling a home here in the Surrey White Rock area, there is a link in the description box below where you can schedule a call with me. And of course, if you're anywhere else in Canada and you'd like a referral to a fantastic agent, don't worry, I've got you covered. I know amazing agents throughout the country and I can gladly connect you with them. All right, let's get into this. So effective July 18th, 2024, the BC government rolled out several changes to the Residential Tenancy Act. The first being a new portal that was designed to bring more transparency and fairness to the current eviction process. Now, this portal, it was designed to protect tenants from being evicted under false pretenses. But while transparency is the goal, this portal could lead to privacy concerns for tenants and additional risk for landlords, adding to the complications that will most certainly be brought on by the extended notice period, which I'm going to talk about in just 1 second. But first, let me just say that while the idea of transparency in evictions sounds really good, this new portal, it requires landlords to provide personal information about their new tenant, which their old tenant will have access to. And this raises potential privacy issues with too much information being shared with the general public. The new regulations have also introduced significant penalties for landlords found to be evicting tenants in bad faith. Specifically, if a landlord evicts a tenant under false pretenses, they could be ordered to pay the displaced tenant up to 12 months of rent. Now, this, of course, is meant to deter landlords from evicting tenants just to raise the rent for the new tenant. And hopefully these steps, these penalties, these very steep penalties will do just that. And while I think that these penalties for bad actors are good, this adds another layer of risk for landlords, potentially discouraging them from investing in rental properties at all. I mean, if the rent you were collecting is, say, $2,500 per month, that equates to a $30,000 penalty. Now, that is significant, which, again, I think that's okay for deterring bad actors. However, strictly from an investment standpoint, this increased risk without proportional reward will most definitely drive more landlords out of the market, which will inevitably further tighten our current rental supply. And speaking of the market impact, in just a second, I'm going to explain why this extended period, this notice period, is another huge concern for both landlords and tenants alike. But first, let's go ahead and talk about one of the most significant changes, and that is the extension of the period from 2 months to 4 months when a landlord needs to reclaim a property for either a family member or if they want to sell it to a new owner who wants to move into it themselves. Now, clearly, this new 4-month notice rule means tenants, they will now have more time to find alternative housing, which seems like a good idea on the surface. But here's the kicker. This new rule, it's going to create a huge challenges for landlords that I believe will ultimately lead to a reduction in the rental supply. And I say that because if landlords need to sell a property, this new extended notice period will almost certainly deter potential buyers offering on that property. With the new notice period requiring a full 4 months, it could be almost 5 months before the would-be home buyer can actually move into that unit for sale. So just imagine that you bought that unit in the middle of August. That means that you as the new home buyer couldn't move in until approximately the beginning of January of the next year. I mean, why would any buyer want to wait nearly 5 months to move into a new home when they could buy an owner-occupied home and move in under 2 months? If I had to guess, many would-be buyers will likely just skip over these tenanted properties altogether. But the biggest issue with this new 4-month notice period that will cause huge problems for landlords, tenants, and would-be home buyers alike is this. Well, most rate holds by major banks are typically around 90 days, with some extending up to 120 days. But what happens if the process drags on beyond 120 days, or roughly 4 months? This is going to put buyers at serious risk as they no longer have assurance of their mortgage rate when it comes time to actually close on the property. If mortgage rates go up, they may not qualify for the necessary mortgage, potentially putting buyers in breach of contract if they can't actually finance the purchase due to increasing mortgage rates. By the way, if you're getting any value from this video, do me a quick favor, go ahead and hit that like button, okay? It just takes a second, but it really helps me get out the word to other people just like you who are interested in this information. All right, so moving along, we understand it's pretty clear that this new 4-month eviction notice period negatively impacts landlords and new buyers. But does it really help tenants? After all, most tenants, they don't even start looking for a new rental unit until the month before they need to actually move. And that's because landlords, well, they don't advertise rental units until just before they become available. So, if you were to start looking for a new home to rent 4 months out, there's nothing available for you to even look at. And so at the end of the day, I foresee all of these new challenges for landlords having a negative impact on the overall rental supply because, if you're a landlord, when a tenant decides to move out, this might be the landlord's one opportunity to sell the unit before placing another tenant in it and being stuck with this new 4-month notice period. Given the existing challenges in profitability when renting out these properties due to the cost of buying these units to begin with, the increased interest rates, limited rent increases prescribed by the government, and the recent increase in capital gains tax, profitability significantly has decreased for investor landlords. And so when a tenant gives notice to move out, landlords are going to be faced with a very crucial decision. And that is to either put the property back into the rental market or they're going to seize the opportunity to sell the home. Most landlords are likely to choose selling to avoid the hassle of the 4-month notice period, which again will turn off many potential buyers, making it very challenging for them to sell that unit. And this decision to sell will reduce the available rental stock, making it even harder for renters to find a new place to call home. And with less supply comes more demand, and more demand will always equate to higher rental prices. But higher prices aren't the only issue here. Long-term implications could make the market even tougher for both parties, and I'm going to explain that in just a second. So who really wins from all this? I mean, certainly not the tenants who rely on these rentals. With fewer rental units available, the long-term rental market is going to suffer. And really, does the 4-month notice period really benefit tenants in any way? Go ahead, let me know what you think. Tell me in the comments below, share your thoughts. I really want to hear what your thoughts are on this issue. For me, my fear is that this new rule will have the complete reverse effect of what the BC government intends to accomplish. By seemingly protecting, tenants, they're inadvertently harming landlords and therefore reducing rental stock and making it harder for renters in the long term. Tenants definitely need to be protected from bad landlords. There's no doubt about that, from doing these shady things. However, I think balancing the rights between tenants and landlords is absolutely crucial. And these new measures swing the pendulum too far in favor of tenants. Both tenants and landlords, they need a fair and functional market to ensure everyone's rights are respected and the housing market remains healthy. And so I really hope for everyone's sake that the government is willing to adjust these policies based on real-world feedback to avoid the unintended consequences that we've discussed here today. So go ahead, leave a comment below, share your thoughts, share your experiences. I'm always interested to hear what other people have to say. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm always happy to help however I can. Otherwise, I will see you on the next video.